Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the Flight Sim Historian channel. Now, a little over a year ago, I made a video in which I posted 11 aircraft that I would like to see as flyable aircraft in DCS World. Now, since I put that video out, 2 of the aircraft on that list have either been released or announced. The payware announcement was the A1 Sky Raider, and there was a high-fidelity mod OV-10 Bronco released. So with that in mind, here are 15 more aircraft that I would like to see added to the sim as flyable aircraft in DCS World. The first, of course, is the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. With more and more multi-crew aircraft being developed for DCS, I think it's only a matter of time before we get a multi-crew 4-engined bomber from World War II, and my choice for such an aircraft is the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. Not only would the fort fit in well with the European theater maps in DCS, but the aircraft also served in the Pacific, so it could be a decent fit for such a map if and when one is released. The variant I'd like to see most is the B-17G, as seen here. Most often picked out among the other variants of the B-17 due to the chin turret on the nose. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS World as a flyable aircraft is the Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker. With the distinct possibility of the KC-130 Hercules tanker on the horizon for DCS World, I figured, why not have a dedicated tanker to fly in the sim? The type has been in service for over 50 years and has served with air arms on 4 continents. And be honest, who wouldn't want to troll fighter pilots with the phrase, "Return pre-contact"? The variant I'd like to see most is the KC-135R, as seen here. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is the Convair F-106 Delta Dart. Yep, I picked an interceptor that never fired a shot in anger. Always been a fan of Delta wings, and the 6 is the best looking American Delta in my opinion. The variant I'd like to see most is the F-106A, as seen here, though I'd be partial to seeing the 2-seat F-106B trainer. The next choice, of course, is the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk. DCS currently lacks an early World War II American fighter aircraft, so my obvious choice for that is the venerable Curtiss P-40 Warhawk. The P-40 series saw service throughout the Second World War, from North Africa to the Eastern Front, and from Southern Europe to the Pacific. It produced aces from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States, among others. The variant I'd like to see most is the P-40E, as seen here. The next aircraft I'd like to see added to DCS World is the Havilland Vampire. This is another aesthetic choice, though this one has seen some combat. We've had the F-86 and the MiG-15 in the sim for quite a while, so why not have a British aircraft from around the same time? The Vampire saw combat in Malaya, Kenya, Egypt, and the India-Pakistan theater. The variant I'd like to see most is the FB-5, though I wouldn't mind seeing the 2-seat T-11. Another classic British aircraft that I'd like to see in DCS is the English Electric Canberra. There's an old saying, Brits have never designed an ugly airplane. Well, not quite true. Short seamew. The Canberra is certainly a beautiful aircraft. The Canberra has seen combat over Malaya, Vietnam, the India-Pakistan theater, Egypt, Southern Africa, Ecuador and Peru, and Argentina. The variant I'd like to see most in DCS is the B Mark II, as seen here. The next choice, and the only helicopter on this list, is the Eurocopter AS565 Panther. I chose the AS565 Panther, which is the military variant of the AS365 Dauphin. The Panther has seen some use over the Gulf of Aden, the Persian Gulf, and the Mediterranean Sea. The variants I'd like to see in DCS include the AS565AA, armed with Mistral missiles, and the AS565CA, armed with HOT missiles. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS World is the Folland Gnat. This one is because it's a relatively simple aircraft and also has some combat history, particularly over India-Pakistan. Plus, who doesn't want to emulate the shenanigans from the movie Hot Shots? The most notable combat seen by the Gnat was during conflict over the India-Pakistan region, where it earned the nickname Saber Slayer for its Indian Air Force pilot's ability to shoot down the Pakistani F-86 Sabres. I'd most like to see the Gnat F-1, while I am partial to the T-1 trainer. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is the Hawker Hurricane. With the Spitfire in DCS already, along with the BF-109 and the FW-190, the fact that we don't have the Hurricane in-game is kinda disappointing. In addition to use in Western Europe, the Hurricane was also used over North Africa, the Eastern Front, and the Pacific Theater. The variant I'd most like to see is the Mark II, although the Mark I would be nice as well. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is the Lockheed F-80 Shooting Star. This was the predecessor to the F-86 Sabre that we already have in DCS. The type was the first jet fighter used operationally by the United States, and was later developed into the T-33 two-seat trainer. The Shooting Star saw combat during the Korean War, both in air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. The variant I'd like to see most is the F-80C, as seen here, though for personal reasons I'd also like to see the two-seat T-33A. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is, of course, the Lockheed P-38 Lightning. With the Mosquito in DCS for over a year, and the P-47 Thunderbolt out for some time as well, the fact that we don't have the P-38 Lightning yet is a bit baffling. Seeing use in both the European and Pacific theaters, the Lightning helped produce such aces as Richard Bong with 40 victories and Thomas McGuire with 38 victories. The variant I'd like to see most in DCS is the P-38J, as seen here. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is the Mitsubishi A6M Zero. Seeing as the VA F4U Corsair is getting close to release, as well as the teasing of a Grumman F6F Hellcat by ED, the need for a Japanese fighter to fly against these American aircraft has risen, pardon the pun. The Zero was flown throughout the Pacific and Far East, and was very successful in early World War II, though its effectiveness slowly and steadily declined as the war raged on. The variant I'd like to see most is the A6M5 Model 52. Next up is the North American B-25 Mitchell. Imagine being able to reenact the Doolittle raid in DCS. That's probably the main reason I chose for the B-25. The Mitchells saw widespread use during World War II, including Europe, North Africa, the Pacific, and the Eastern Front. The variant I'd like to see most in DCS is, of course, the B-25J, as seen here. The next aircraft I'd like to see in DCS is the SEPECAT Jaguar. With the Tornado coming, and the F-15E Strike Eagle almost here, there is another strike aircraft that has a lot of fun potential in DCS, the SEPECAT Jaguar, jointly developed by France and the United Kingdom. The type has seen combat over northern Africa, Chad, Iraq, Bosnia, and Ecuador, Peru. The variant I'd like to see most in DCS is seen here, the GR1. And the final aircraft that I am choosing to want to see in DCS is, of course, the Yakovlev Yak series fighters from World War II, particularly the Yak-3. We have the 109K4, the Dora 9, the P-51D, the P-47D, the Spitfire Mark 9, and we have the LA-7 just over the horizon, so why not have a V-12 powered fighter from the Soviet side? With that in mind, here is the Yak-3, though I wouldn't mind having the Yak-1, the Yak-7, or the Yak-9.